All right, so Grand Risings, y'all. This is session 2 of the work-based learning program, Repaired Nations. We're diving deeper into collective courage today during week 1, which is primarily about cooperative history. Um, and so I created a slideshow for you all because I still haven't gotten the books to everyone. So you'll be able to read the slideshow and do the assignment for the day. Also joined in here with co-lead Tut. How you doing, bro?
I'm well, brother. Doing good. Dipped our foots into the timeline yesterday. Just excited to hear what the folks have to say after they get into the next chapter.
Sure. So the assignment 1 was reading the timeline, which is page 239 through 250 in the back of Collective Courage. There's a slideshow for you all to use. You're to pick 2 cooperatives from the timeline and let us know why you're interested to learn more about them. And then you're also to give us your address so we can send over the book and a dope backpack from Ghana. Those are all going to be done inside of the portal, the assignment portal, which is going to look like this. You're going to put in your email if it isn't collected automatically and your name. Let us know what day the lecture was from, or you can let us know what assignment number it was. Yesterday was assignment number 1. And then for that assignment number 1, you're going to put, the first co-op you're interested in, tell us why. Number 2, the second co-op you're interested in, tell us why. Number 3, tell us your address. And this is the portal that we'll be using each time. So, you'll be able to submit multiple times through this. So maybe you can start it like up here, and it'll be more accessible for you in your Google Drive, or you can just save the links. Now, we are going to move into the introduction for Collective Courage. And this is going to start on page 1 and on page 25. And before we really get into it, I wanted to share with you all a study technique. I was taught this study technique when entering law school. I think it's really effective and helpful. And because this book, it's great, but it can be kind of long and also kind of dense. So for some of the cohort members, we won't necessarily be able to read everything. Others will get closer to it, maybe finish it, especially the co-op dev folks. But this study technique, fairly simple. When you first encounter a piece of work, literature, you read the first and last sentence of every paragraph. And from that, you're able to gather a rough understanding of what's happening. And it'll also help you, see how the pages in the books or how the information is organized. And then as you're going through a second time, you're giving your brain another chance to encounter the information, soak more of it up. And you can kind of, gloss over what you've already read in terms of the first and last sentence, and then, read the middle of it, especially for the paragraphs that you want to know more about. So how that would work, in practice, here on the introduction, we're seeing it starts off with African Americans have a long, rich history of cooperative ownership, especially in reaction to market failures and economic racial discrimination. Then I would go down to the last sentence of that paragraph, which, let's see, I put these in too many times. Let me fix this. Gotta make sure it's right for you all. Otherwise, it's not helpful. All right, so there's that. Okay, so we're seeing African Americans have a long history, a long, rich history of cooperative ownership, especially in reaction to market failures and economic discrimination. The last sentence of this paragraph comes up here. Yeah, this book documents these practices and experiences, as well as the philosophies behind the strategy of cooperative ownership among African Americans. Now, we didn't necessarily read all of it, but we got a lot of what she's trying to say just by reading the introductory and closing sentence. We'll do it again. Considering the broad aspects of cooperative economic development in African American communities over the past century, my research shows that cooperative economic thought was integral to many African American leaders and thinkers throughout history. And then the last sentence. There are lessons to be learned from the history of cooperative economic models that can be applied to future discussions about community economic development in communities of color. And just you can keep moving through it as such. And I've found that I read faster, I retain more, and I'm also able to like skip the things that I'm not too interested in and aren't, required. So yeah, that is a brief tip for how to like study and engage with the material, especially when there's not very much time. Anything you want to add, Tut, or any questions from the folks in the room?
I'll just add that is a dope technique. I'm familiar with a lot of scholars who use this technique, and for some reason they still grasp a lot of the content in the book. A lot of folks that I know and I've heard of that are speed readers, and they read a lot of books, about 50 to 60, maybe 70 a year. They use this technique, so it's very good. I think it's very useful.
Okay, so this the introduction is mainly about like what is a cooperative, and Jessica Gordon Nemhard begins to explain it. She talks about the cooperative advantage and gives like studies and other facts. And then she also kind of like just like lays out the organization of the book, allowing for us to once again see like what we're getting into. Maybe we want to focus on certain things because of our interests. That will help us do that as well. In this moment, I wanted to just like take a moment to kind of root all of our understandings into what is a cooperative. My understanding of them is that they are member-owned companies that are created to primarily benefit its members. Member-owned, member benefiting, member controlled. And so when you go looking throughout the world, you'll see like many different examples of cooperatives. There are grocery cooperatives. Sometimes they're created to benefit the workers, and so they're worker cooperatives. Sometimes they're created to benefit the people buying the groceries, and in that case, they're consumer cooperatives. You might find that there's a cooperative aimed at like creating housing or commercial space for people, and why I like cooperative so much is because like a corporation, like a general stock corporation, by default has to prioritize profit making over everything else. And I think we've all seen how that can destroy the world. Our oceans are on fire because there are folks that are trying to like extract oil, but are too negligent to make sure the pipes are good because that costs money, you know? And I'm not saying that we want like cooperative oil companies necessarily, but I am saying that like cooperatives allow for the members to have direct control over what's going on at that business to varying degrees. And so a worker cooperative, the members of that space, like they have like that gives you like the most control and power with others over a situation. A consumer cooperative is kind of where like if a grocery store is selling goods and at first they started off like selling a bunch of organic and non-GMO stuff, and then because of profit they started creeping into that section. Like a consumer cooperative, its members could say like, nah, this isn't right. They could take the board of directors. They can take the board of directors out and replace them and make sure that they're like, putting the business on a good trajectory. Um, there's just there's a lot of ways that we can figure out how to do this together and make sure that there's like co-accountability in the community. And so cooperatives are also called solidarity. Um, well, yeah, cooperatives are sometimes called solidarity organizations, or sometimes are like considered as included in the solidarity economy, which is that, like, I guess broader scope of this thing that we're doing is about like ultimately sustainability. Concern for community is the seventh principle of cooperatives. And that's been since like the 1800s, when they were saying back then, when folks were doing crazy stuff, that like, nah, we have to do business different. And so, you can see on this page that there are nearly 3 billion people, or half the world's population at this time in 2012, that are a part of a co-op in some way, or who have been made secure by cooperative enterprise. And so it's a big sector of what goes on that many people don't know about. And like Black people knowing about our rich history in cooperatives is like even less. And so, as we're moving throughout this book, the three assignments that we're going to be asking of you all, the three prompts, I should say. Prompt one is looking at these tables and letting us know, um, one thing that you've learned about the different kinds of entities after seeing them lined up like this. And so I might be able to zoom in so you can see this at the top. But there's a cooperative corporation, an unincorporated association, a corporation, which is a C or S. That's like a IRS stuff. Limited liability companies, or LLCs, partnerships, sole proprietorships, and nonprofits. As far as I can think, those are like almost all of the different entities that us at this stage would be wanting to know about. And so, please, when you're doing the 45 minutes of follow-up for this class, or for this session, take a look at this table and pull one thing out that was valuable for you and write it in prompt one. The second prompt is in the cooperative advantage section. As I had mentioned, Jessica Gordon Nemhard puts a lot of energy and attention into gathering like studies or literature about that talks about how co-ops have been helpful, or have some kind of advantage or benefit that aren't seen in other organizations. So pull something out of here that you're that feels useful for you, and that you're grateful that you were able to pick up. The last question, uh, question number, or prompt number 3, is we just want to know, what questions do you have generally about how co-ops work after reading this introduction? After reading this introduction section, there's going to be, I think, week 10 or 12, something around there. We're going to be returning back to cooperative entities and formations and going through all of the different things that I've mentioned in more detail. But for now, it's just kind of like maybe an introduction, or maybe a retelling of what's out there. And we'd like to know where you're sitting with it, so we know how to, like, I guess, teach to what you need as we're moving through this 6 months. Anything you want to add about those different topics that I've mentioned? We've talked, welcome, Billy. We've talked about the tables as prompt 1, pulling a useful fact out and putting that into the Google form. Prompt 2 for today is pulling out a gem, a good fact from the cooperative advantage section. Prompt 3, let us know if you have any questions about how cooperatives work after reading through the intro, hearing what we've been talking about, so that we'll be able to tailor the upcoming things to your needs. Um, Billy, we also, went through a reading technique, reading the first and last sentence of each paragraph before you like actually get into the heart of reading things. And so I'll let you go back in the video and pull that out. Let's see, anything to add, Ted?
No, I think that was great. Just asking people to think about, how you touched on the different types of entity formations, like the corporation, the nonprofit, LLC, and that this country has been, we've been indoctrinated to feel like those are the only avenues that we have to compete on the level of a Walmart or Apple, where it could be detrimental to the market and not necessarily competitors, but people offering similar goods in our community. We don't have the same luxury to take the stance that most white Americans do. If we have a grocery store in our community and another black family puts another grocery store in the community, there's this pit against one another, and we see that a lot in our community on a mundane level. So we're talking about on an economic level, that's not beneficial. To whereas the cooperative model, what we read about in Collective Courage, that Jessica Gordon Nemhard lists the long history that we have of working in cooperatively, where you see two black grocery stores in the same community. One of the principles of cooperation is co-ops supporting and working with other co-ops. So just off of the principle basis of growing the cooperative is charging us to build and support and network with a similar cooperative in the same industry or the same city. So just wanted to highlight that a little bit more, that we're going to learn a lot about this. And it's going to really take for us to kind of take ourselves back from what we've been indoctrinated with and kind of be open to the message in these readings. And also using that technique will be able to benefit you, to give you more time to kind of meditate and let some of this stuff uh, seep in to your consciousness, because we're actually we're going against the grain with what we've been taught, what we've been doing on a business and economics level. I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, thank you, Ted. I mean, this is definitely a journey, and we don't want to like, I guess, fantasize or skip over the part about it's not always easy making decisions with each other, but we think it's way better than like being dictated, demanded to, like without any other option. Um, Command and control, hierarchy, patriarchy, whatever you want to call it. Like there are different ways that we can do it. And, it doesn't have to be a straight line down. It can be a circle, it can be a mix. And we'll kind of get into that in that, cooperatives, they're really created for their members. And so, each cooperative may be ran a little differently. And, the internal functionings, the way they, have accountability for each other or set intentions and visions, like it's all kind of person and organization specific. But there are some things that it's helpful to look at initially, understand what others are doing, and then figure out if that's best for you, or if you want to um, figure it out. Um, and I guess I think wanting to maybe close with the cooperative principles. I thought they were going to be in Collective Courage. They're in here somewhere. But there are 7 of them. And Ted, do you remember what they are? I feel like I might have most of them down, but could you help me out?
Yeah, I have my favorites.
Okay.
So I don't. They use certain terminology, but I
Mhm.
get the message. So it's democratic voting. Like one voice for each member, so everybody has a say so uh, in almost any aspect of the business. We talked about cooperatives, supporting cooperatives. Um, you got the other two, some more too. I'm trying to.
Okay. Yeah, it's okay. So democratic decision making, which is
Oh,
the one member, one vote. The economic participation, and that is about democratically and democratically uh, equally in some ways, sharing the profits of what comes from the business according to the way each person put in labor, get it done. Um, there is education, training, and information is number 4. What's number 3? I should just pull it up, huh? Let me just pull it up so you guys have the right information.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
ICA.org, I believe, is, well, the International Cooperatives Alliance is where I'm trying to go. And that's not it. Is it ICA.coop? Yeah. Okay. Um, so ICA.coop, International Cooperatives Alliance. Okay, here they go. You can see that. All right. So voluntary and open membership was number 1.
Got you. Yeah,
Yeah.
that is key.
That's about not forcing people, but also being able to, set out what the membership requirements are, and people can opt into it. Right. We talked about democratic member control and economic participation, autonomy and independence. Number 4, very important. That often gets into like the ways cooperatives receive investment and not letting like venture capitalists basically seize control of the business by giving financing on certain terms. Education, training, and information, super, very important, because I mean, this is a learning process and we're always going to be learning. We have to like actually get okay with and start enjoying the fact that there's more to learn, because that signifies that we've reached a new level. There's there's more to learn because you know um, as we level up, we get different problems. Cooperation among cooperatives is really big. Like here in the Bay Area, there's a network of Bay Area worker cooperatives that has a grouping of maybe like 100. Well, the map has about 100. I don't know how many members there are. But it's super important. And as Ted said, like, cooperatives are often, doing what they can to help out other co-ops, even if they're the same kind. Um, and then concern for community has led into, well, I think it was originally there because, back in the day, organizations like, didn't care if they were throwing every toxic thing into the river, or putting a bunch of soot into the air. Um, they came to make money, and then as soon as they make the money, they leave. But they leave the community members and the people in the, yeah, they just leave the community in shambles oftentimes, but running away with the profits. So this is really about, making sure that the decisions and the ways that the cooperative does business um, like reflects our desire to keep the community intact and sustainable. Okay, those are the principles. As you can see, Tet and I are still committing them to memory. And on this website, at ICA Co-op, they go into a lot of detail actually about each one. There's this, and then there's like a guide somewhere on here, PDF that you can download. Oh, this guidance notes, yeah, which uh, brings up a whole bunch of stuff. So this is about the end of today's session. I'll just recap what the assignment is. Prompt 1, inside of the Google form, tell us about the table and one thing that you benefited from learning. Number 2, the co-op advantage section. Give us a fact that you're going to walk away with. And then third, let us know what questions you have generally about how co-ops work after going through this talk and the introduction of collective courage, so that we can make sure to fill in the gaps as we move forward. Any last words, big bro?
No, I think just wanted to ask the attendees if they any questions, anything that you might need reiteration on or clarity on. This is the time. We got a few minutes left. I mean, anything across your mind, anything you want to add to the conversation. Um, yeah, to
Yeah.
those in. Go ahead.
I was looking for the email with how to get to the form. So, I mean, that's what I'm looking for right now. Is there
Yeah, the email you gave us is Sands of the Sea.
okay.
So that's where it should be.
And you sent that today or yesterday?
We sent an email yesterday and an email the day before, but they're all in the same thread.
Okay, I found it.
Okay, great. All right. Yeah, we're gonna send the recording and the info for today. I'm in that same thread, so you all will have it.
Got it.
Okay, awesome. This is Billy. That was also one of my questions as well. As far as like would there be links and stuff, for research wise to recap? Because me personally, I like to go in depth with research and information. Trying to inquire questioning and just to get a better clarification and direction of what path I want to take, and just learning about more of the cooperatives and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. So after each 8 o'clock session, I think by around noon, 1 at the latest, I should have like the YouTube up, and I'll be sending you all an email with whatever materials are needed for the day, or that I relied on, and yeah, the video links and that, and the portal link.
Awesome.
And where do I find the? I heard you ask the questions. Do I have to listen back over again?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, cool. Any other questions? Tet and I are available. I think you all have our phones and emails. But yeah, I will be getting the books out to folks later today, so you'll have those for tomorrow if you haven't already gotten one. And yeah, so please do the assignment for assignment 1, so I get your address, and yeah, assignment 2 a few times. So appreciate y'all.
Much love. Great job, everybody.
Blessings to the kings and queens this morning.
That's right.